Okay, so here is 4.7 notes. If you are new to the class, I have put these notes into the top of this folder, so you'll want to either print these off or take them on your Chromebook as we go through the notes. Or you can do them on a separate sheet of paper, but then you don't have all this stuff already written down. So typically it's easier if you can get them printed off. If you can't do that, just email me and I can leave them at the front desk and you can come pick them up. Okay, so base angles theorem. So we have one section left of Unit 4, and then you guys will have a test this week on Wednesday over Unit 4. Base angles theorem, if two sides of a triangle are congruent, so they're saying that A to B is congruent to A to C, then the opposite angles are also congruent. So that would mean that angle B is congruent to angle C. So I should have just put a little arc in there. So angle B would be congruent to angle C. Because these two sides are equal, the angles across from them are equal. Converse of that is just stating the opposite, so flipping it. So if angle B is congruent to angle C, that means that the sides that are across from it are also congruent. So that would mean that AB is congruent to AC. Corollary to base angles theorem, if a triangle is equilateral, remember equa means equal, lateral are sides, so equilateral means same length and sides, then it is also equiangular. So if I have all sides that are equal, that means all angles are also equal. And then the corollary to the converse, so the converse, flipping it around, if all angles are equal, it's equiangular, then that means all sides are also equal. Okay, so what I want you to do with that information, I want you to pause me and try 1 through 5 on your own, and then unpause me when you're done and see if you did them correct. So this is showing that all three sides are equal. So if all three sides are equal, it's equilateral. That also means it's equiangular, so all angles are equal. To make 180 degrees in a triangle, if I have 3 equal angles, that means each angle is 60 degrees. So I just do 5x equals 60. Divide by 5, divide by 5, that means x equals 12. Next one, 60, 60, that would mean that this is 60. That also means that this side and this side and this side are all equal. So I do 2x minus 3 equals 60. I'm going to add 3 to both sides, so I get 2x equals 63. Divide by 2, x equals 31.5, or 31.5. Or maybe they want you to leave that as a improper fraction, so 63 over 2. Make sure to read the directions in Schoology to see if they want a fraction or a decimal. And if they want a fraction in Schoology, they never, ever, ever want a mixed fraction. So like, they would never want this as 31.5. They would want it as 63 over 2. Next one, this side is equal to this side because those two angles are equal. So 4x minus 3 equals 15. 4x equals add 3 to both sides, so that's 18. Divide by 4, divide by 4, x equals 4.5. Next one, this side is equal to this side. That makes this angle equal to this angle. So of the 180, we're using that 40 with that angle. So I have 140 left. If I divide that by 2, because these two are going to be equal, I get 70 degrees in each angle. So now I get 11x minus 18 equals 70. So I'm going to add 18 to both sides. So 11x equals 88. So x equals 8. This one, this side is equal to this side. This for this angle equals this angle. 7x plus 5 equals x plus 47. I'm going to subtract x on both sides, so I get 6x. I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides to get 42. Divide by 6, I get x equals 7. Next page. Find the values of x and y. So this side is equal to this side, so this angle equals this angle. So I do the 180 minus the 98 that it already shows. That leaves me with 102. Divide by 2, that gives me 51 degrees for both angles. So I'm going to set both of those equal to 51. So 5x plus 6 equals 51. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, so I get 5x equals 45. So x equals 9. And then over here, I'm going to do y minus 9 equals 51. Add 9 to both sides, so I get y equals 60. And then this guy, this angle, or this side equals this side, therefore this angle equals this angle. But we know that this angle plus this angle equal 180. right? We also know that this angle equals this guy plus this guy. Okay, so if this side is equal to this side, this means this angle equals this angle, so we can put x minus 2 in that angle also, because it's the same as that one. So now I can do 4x minus 10 plus x minus 2 plus x minus 2 equals 180 degrees, because what I've just done is I've showed that this angle plus this angle plus this angle, all three angles inside, equal 180 degrees, which is in a triangle. So now I'm just going to combine like terms. So 4x's, 1x gives me 6x's. Negative 10, negative 2, and negative 2 is minus 14 equals 180. So now I have 6x equals, add 14 to both sides, so 194. Divide by 6, divide by 6. X equals, so 19, 6 goes into 19 3 times with 1 left over. We are not doing good numbers here. Let me grab a calculator. Okay. So 194 divided by 6 is 32 1/3. Okay, so now I know that. So what I would do then is I would plug it in to find this x. So I'd do 32 1/3 minus 2. So that means that angle down there is 30 1/3. Well, 3y plus this angle have to equal 180 because they make a straight line, right? So first I'm going to do 180 minus 30 1/3. So that gives me 149 2/3. 149 2/3 equals 3y. Okay, so 149 times 3 plus 2. So 449 over 3. That whole thing divided by 3 equals, y equals 49.8, repeating. Those were some awful numbers. Hopefully I did that correctly. All right, next section. Complete the statement. Tell what theorem you use. So if I know that P to Q is congruent to P to T, then that means that angle PQR, so this angle down here, is congruent to P to T to S. So that would be, if I look back on the previous page, that would be base angles theorem. If the two sides are congruent, then the angles across them are congruent. That is theorem 4.7. Okay, so the next one, if P to Q to V, so this angle in here, so this gets a little confusing to see, guys, is congruent to P to V to Q, this angle in here. That means that this side, P to Q, is congruent to P to V. That is the converse, so that is 4.8. If I know R to P is congruent to S to P, then I know P to R to T, angle PRT, is congruent to PSQ. And that goes back to theorem 4.7. And last, if I know P to T is congruent to T to R, then that means that angle T to P to R, so this angle up here, is congruent to TRP, this angle right here. And then that goes back to theorem 4.8. Okay, so the rest are proofs. I would like for you to pause me, try all the proofs, this page and then the last page, and unpause me when you're done to see how well you did. Okay, so given F to G is congruent to F to J, so always mark what they haven't marked. We also know that H to G is congruent to I to J. Ooh, H to G is congruent to I to J. Good. Okay. Prove that H to F is congruent to I to F. Okay, so this first one was a given. Something because of base angles theorem. Well, if I know that those two sides are equal, that would also make this angle congruent to this angle. So angle FGH is congruent to angle FJI. Then HG is congruent to IJ. That was a given. Then that makes this triangle congruent to this triangle. So triangle FGH is congruent to triangle FJI by side, angle, side congruence. And this last one is something new. That means that H to F is congruent to I to F by what we call CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. What this means is, once you have proven two triangles are congruent by one of our shortcuts, and remember, we originally learned to prove triangles congruent by 6 things. You had to prove 6 things, all 3 angles and all 3 sides. And then we got into the shortcuts where we only had to prove 3 things. But that proved that the triangles are congruent. That then means that all parts of the triangle are congruent to all parts of this triangle. So they each have corresponding parts. So what this is saying is, once I've proven this triangle congruent, I can then prove the other parts are congruent to one another by CPCTC, which is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. All right, number 13. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. A to C is congruent to B to D. This is a given. This is a given. A to E to C, this angle is congruent to B to E to C, this angle. Those are across from each other, right? So that's the vertical angles theorem. Therefore, this triangle is congruent to this triangle by angle, angle, side congruence. So triangle AEC is congruent to triangle BEC by angle, angle, side congruence theorem. Which then means that A to E is congruent to B to E by CPCTC, because that's a corresponding part. Which then means that if these two sides are congruent, their base angles, this guy and this guy, are also congruent. That is theorem, let me make sure I get this right. Sides are congruent, therefore angles are congruent, 4.7. Base angles theorem. Okay, one more. Yes, these proofs are pretty big and intensive, right? Okay. B to D bisects angle A to D to C. So it bisects it. So that means that this angle is equal to this angle. It also says that these two things are perpendicular. So that means this is congruent to this. So the first thing was our given. The second thing it says because of it's an angle bisector. So that means that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 is what they're wanting there. Now, B to D is perpendicular to A. This should be A to B to C. That's a given. And this should be a B. Sorry about that, guys. That means angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. That is definition of right angles. B to D is congruent to itself. Well, that's just reflexive. And it would be POC in this case. Now I know that this triangle is congruent to this triangle because of angle, side, angle. So triangle C to D to B is congruent to triangle A to D to B. Therefore, C to D is congruent to A to D. That is CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. That means that this big triangle is isosceles. Well, that's just definition of isosceles triangle. Because an isosceles triangle means that two sides are congruent. Okay, so in Schoology, you have a 4.6 to 4.7 homework that you need to complete. Then you need to complete the Unit 4 review. Then on Wednesday, I will open up the Unit 4 test for you to take on Wednesday. It'll be open from 8 until 8. All these 2 assignments will be due. They're due Wednesday at noon. I will not accept them past Wednesday night at midnight because we're moving on to Unit 5 for the next week. All right, thanks, guys.